Hello, we are super excited here today on the Forum Media Network. I am Florence Carmela and this is James Patrick, and we are here with an NFL legend, a Super Bowl champion, and we couldn't be more excited to have the iconic Raiders linebacker, Phil Villapiano, with us today on the Forum. Hi, Phil. Welcome to the Forum Media Network.
Hello, Florence, and you look wonderful today, Florence.
Thank
And
you, Phil.
and James, as always. I don't like a blue hat though. I like silver and black.
Florence
Yes.
Florence made me wear it, so she
Ah,
likes me in blue.
Dodger
Uh,
blue, Dodger
uh,
blue.
no, not Dodger
Not
blue.
Dodger blue.
I'm a UCLA guy. I did go to UCLA for a short time.
Yeah.
I got a lot of Bruin stuff,
There you go.
but like I said, Phil, Florence has a couple great questions, and as many of you know, he has a book come out. Just Tackle Baby. We're going to talk about it. I read this in one night and I'm going to reread it this weekend. I loved it. It had great information, and everyone knows I'm kind of a stickler for the 60s and 70s Raiders. I know too much sometimes, and I learned some new things in here, some things that kind of shocked me a little bit. So we're going to get
Uh-oh.
into that. But Florence, you talk
Yes.
about some two good questions. You always have great questions.
Yes. Now, of course, Phil, your book, Just Tackle Baby, which we just showed, and I'm going to show it one more time, is coming out in August. And we did get to read the book. We absolutely loved it. We appreciate the really nice note that you wrote handwritten for us. But one of the things that really stood out, and I knew this before reading the book, is you've played with some other very well known people. I mean, you're a legend, you're an icon, but you also played with some very well known people. And I know that you played with Carl Weathers, rest in peace, RIP to Carl Weathers, who played
Yeah.
Apollo Creed in Rocky. Now, I just wanted to ask, I know that you talked about him a little bit in the book. Is there anything else like that you would want to mention about working with Apollo Creed?
You had to know Carl. I think Carl ended up in the right spot, doing in the ring with against our Rocky Balboa or whatever it was,
Yes,
right?
yes, in the
And
movie,
I
yeah.
mean that he I I think I put it in the book. If I didn't, I better go back and put it. Apollo Creed never had a hair out of place. His tape, when he taped his wrist, it was perfect. His socks were exactly where they should be, up and pulled tight. And his pants fit him so tight. I mean, you should have seen the body on this guy. Well, we all
Yeah.
saw him when he boxed, how he was cut and chiseled. And I come to the Raiders, and he's the starter, and I'm like, look at this guy. I can't possibly play with this guy. But the more I got to know Carl, the more he was destined for Hollywood, and I was destined to break my leg and just get smashed in the face and all that. I think I was more suited for the football world, and he was definitely more suited for the acting world.
Now, you weren't
But
surprised that he went into acting and became this like big time character in Rocky, Apollo Creed. You weren't surprised by that at all?
well, I was very happy for him because we stayed. I mean, there was a guy named Dwayne Benson. Dwayne was been on the team the longest, so he was going to be the starter in '71. Then Carl was the backup to Dwayne. I was third team, and went to the college all star game, which meant I was missing 30 days of training camp, which was kind of fun, but it really is not good if you want to play. So when I got back to, Santa Rosa, which is where we had training camp, they weren't even considering me. First preseason game, Dwayne pulls a groin, a bad, and a groin pull in football you just can't play because everything's so lateral and you got to move, And so he's injured. Second game, Carl, knee. He gets a knee tweaked. Third game, no matter what, I'm the only one left. I'm the starter. And I made a little vow to myself. Sorry, boys. I'm going after this spot now. But football, we'll talk about this, I'm sure, you guys, but that was me. And, there's a lot of stories leading up to me being a Raider. And one of them was Thanksgiving Day in my mother's house, Bowling Green. We finished up about, say, a week before Thanksgiving. So we went home. First time I had been home, that since I'd left for training camp. And the Raiders were playing the Lions on Thanksgiving Day. And they were trying this new thing where they mic'd up the coaches. I don't know if you remember that.
Sure.
James, they mic'd up so you could hear the coaches trying to make, they did it to the players, but it just doesn't work. You can't watch what you're saying in a football game. So the opening kickoff, my mother's in there, and I had just played in the blue and gray game, and I did very well. So there's possibilities of me playing at the next level. So we're all in there watching, and we watch the Oakland Raiders go down on the opening kickoff. And the language those coaches used was unbelievable. I can't even begin to say how many swear words came out of their mouth. And that was just covering the kickoff. And I'm watching the game, and I fell in love with that because I like that kind of football. And, all my high school, all my college career up to this point, that's the way I played. And I said, wow, I'd love to be drafted by that team. But my mother storms out of the room. They are disgusting. A team in black is disgusting. So when I ended up getting drafted, and my mother called me, I was out at Bowling Green, and she said, is that team that I hate? I said, yup. So anyway, she ended up loving the Raiders and loving Al Davis and loving Mrs. Davis. And, it all turned out to be great relationship. That my parents, oh my God, we're going to play Baltimore one time. And John Madden, he wanted to know how many tickets I have for that game. I said, Coach, I think I got 220. He goes, that's good. You'll play well. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, you don't know that you play much better when your whole family comes? And it was a big game against Baltimore. And I actually knocked out, what was their quarterback that was this guy was good.
Bob
And
Greasy?
No, Baltimore.
Oh, Unitas?
No, but after
Morrow?
United.
Burt Jones.
Burt Jones, good job there, James. I'm just testing you to see if you really know your stuff. Anyway, Burt comes down the field. He threw the head fake. Bam! He's gone. So that turned out to be a good game, and Coach actually patted me on the butt for that. He liked it. Let alone probably the most tackles of any rookie in the league. I guarantee I had the most family members come to the games.
Oh,
Every
that's
game.
amazing. I think that's wonderful that you had all that support. I do have one more quick question, and then I'm going to give it over to James so you guys can really talk some football. But I have to ask, because I know you had an iconic exchange with him, OJ Simpson. Do you have anything you want to say about that?
Well, I would like to say it sounds horrible, and all the evidence was against OJ. I was one of the guys couldn't be. He could not have done this. He could not have done this. He's too good of a guy, and when it all turned out, and it was an ugly ugly situation for OJ. But let me just tell you, my first Pro Bowl game, we go to Miami, and that's where we're practicing, and we're going to play the Pro Bowl in Miami. This was '74, and when I got there, and I looked around at the people in the room for our first meeting, and if it was funny, I thought this: who's going to be the captain of this team? Because they were all stars. Everybody was a superstar. And within 2 days, I knew who was going to be the captain of that team. OJ just went right to the top. Nobody was a leader and a good guy and everything you would want in your captain, in your leader. That was OJ Simpson. And I just, he just died recently.
Yeah.
That stunk. Everything. I couldn't believe a man had his life going so well and screwed it up so bad. It's just a terrible thing. But hey, I'm an OJ Simpson fan, and I'll never forget. I got into the Superstars, and James, you remember that show, the Superstars,
sure.
right? ABC Super.
Yeah.
And OJ, after that Pro Bowl game, we went. I think it was Franco Harris and OJ and me, and maybe a couple guys from the NFC. We all had to go to Rotunda, Florida, because they were taping the show the next week. No practice, no nothing. We all showed up over there, and it was just so cool. And OJ, every night, we had a couple beers together and talked football and talked life, and wow, what a good guy. And I hope I answered your question, Florence.
Yes, you did.
He was one of my dear friends, and I remember I hit him a shot over in Buffalo one night, and it was ugly, and his helmet came off, and he was
Can opener.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's the thing I was talking about. That iconic thing with him.
Yeah, bam. So, even though, but here's the thing. When you're playing football and you're playing it at the level, the championship level, and you're a Pro Bowl player, right? That means you're one of the best in the AFC. You're going up against the best in the NFC. If you're playing another AFC team and you're going against an OJ Simpson, you got to play great because you're playing against a great player. And and that's just the way it was. The big guys wanted to play against the big guys, and it was so cool. And it was so cool, to beat up on somebody that was, a great player.
And what's funny is that we ended up interviewing Nicole's boyfriend at the time.
Ooh.
And he said that after the funeral, OJ sat behind him and they were going to go to Nicole's house. And OJ called the house, it was a condo, because they were going to divvy up her clothes and her personal things. And he was very close to her. He walked in and they told him run. And they said, why? And he goes, OJ just called us and said he's going to finish what he started. And then the chase happened. They called the police, and then the chase happened. Yeah. So they didn't know if he was going to do the family or him or just him. It just a nightmare. And you want to talk about a Jekyll and Hyde guy, because OJ was one of the most popular guys in America for a long time, and he was just so well loved. But yeah, let's get on, Phil. I'm going to come out with both arms. I don't want to get in trouble with you two blazing. I call the Raiders a dynasty. I get ripped on by some people. I want to give some things right here that you may not have known. In the 1970s, only one team had a winning record against the Pittsburgh Steelers. That was the Oakland Raiders. The Raiders have never had a losing season against the Steelers ever. The Raiders have never had a losing season, and that also is the 1970s against the Miami Dolphins when they had their dynasty. People forget also the Raiders beat the Steelers in the playoffs, not just to go to the Super Bowl, but earlier. So I think and if you would have the Immaculate Reception was a joke. If you take that game and Kenny Stabler's run ends the game, the Raiders end up with a 7-4 record against the Steelers in the 70s when they are the dynasty of dynasties. So to me, and for 25 years, the Raiders had the winningest percentage of any professional sports team in the United States. So anyone that tells me the Raiders weren't a dynasty, whatever. I just think the Raiders were such an amazing team. And that's why my father, you were his favorite player. He said, I love when, and I wanted you to talk about this story. I love when Phil goes up and he starts pounding his pads. And my dad said, those aren't soft pads. Tell the story about what you guys would have did and the absolute genius of making these pads.
Well, it was our trainer. His name was George Anderson, a great guy. He's dead now. Mm-hmm. But George, he would work at the racetrack over there right outside of San Francisco, with whatever that was called, going down 17, right there on the left. Golden Gate Fields, I think. Maybe that was it. Anyway, he worked there in the off season, and then he would come to the Raiders during the season. You got to remember, back in the 70s, there wasn't a penny wasted, on anybody. There was no off-season job. They locked the door after the last game, and George and all the players were out there. But anyway, George, I think it was because of the horses, and because of the makeup for football players. I think he kind of treated us like horses, and and it was just different. But then he started with and this had to be early 70s, right when it was invented, and you take this plastic, stick it in the hot water, and then you bring it out and you can mold it. And he started molding us all these pads. And it was great because you could take this rubberized tape, put it right on your skin, take that plaster of Paris or whatever it was. Once it dried, it was a brick. And then you'd have the rubberized, then you put the plaster of Paris, and you put the tape on it. Oh, God. There was no way that we were going to get hurt. It was violent. But I got the biggest laugh on one of those NFL films that John Madden was doing his thing. And they said, Coach, what about your guys? I mean, they had pads on everything, and John went, they did? And he goes, well, I don't know. I don't remember seeing them. But maybe when they went back in the locker room, they put some pads on. I don't know. I was thinking about it. So how he said it was like he was so innocent. But John loved what we did. But don't think the other guys didn't do it too.
Yeah,
it was all around.
The Raiders are just the ones that everybody blames. But you know what was a funny Chuck Noll story? Chuck Noll, very anal, and he would go to, I think it was in John's book a long time ago, but he said Chuck Noll came over and he was just livid. and he goes, "There are rats in our locker room. What what's going on, John?" And goes, "Man, there are rats here too." He would just, everything was normalized. Finally, he said, they built this stupid stadium below sea level.
Yeah.
So it was wet at all times. And
Oh.
Chuck Noll would say that he swore that they watered the field and all that stuff. So finally, John said, every time he asked, he goes, "Yeah, we watered the field." So
Yeah.
after a while, it was like, you guys, your reputation was so huge that he said, "What the heck? We'll let everyone think that. We'll go with it and see."
Yeah, and let me give you one, James, just in case you haven't heard this, which you probably haven't. So anyway, the Steelers are driving down the field, and this was I forgot what year they switched the goalposts to the end, back of the end zone. Let's say 75, right? Something like that. So anyway, the Steelers are driving the ball down the field. And we had these balls that, they were done for, but we use them in practice when it was rainy, or we call them kicking balls, whatever they were. They were pieces of crap. So anyway, and they should never be in a real game.
Real game, yeah.
So the Steelers drove down, and Garella is going to kick this field goal. And Ray Mansfield sticks his hand up in the air and goes like this to the referee. Oh, on all of these balls, so the players wouldn't steal them and bring them home for their kids, they wrote CKYOU on the ball. Big white letters. So Mansfield raised his hand, and I remember Otis's truck was right next to me, and we looking at him like, what's he doing? What? And he tells the ref, "Read that," and it said "F you" on there, and the referee picks up the ball like he was holding it like it had, disease or something, and he walks the ball off to the sideline, and he starts yelling at. There was a guy from the Raiders that gave the ball in. Of course, we gave the ball in because Jarrella was good. So maybe a flat ball wouldn't go as far. So anyway, I laughed so hard, and Ray Mansfield and I became very good friends after football, and we laughed about it. He goes, "Phil, only the Raiders would do such a thing, is put that ball in the game. It probably wouldn't have gone 20 yards anyway. It had no air. So anyway, and then it had FU written on it. So those, that goes
fun.
right along with the pads. It goes right along with. Did you ever notice with the Raiders, our guy that kept the clock, a beautiful little Italian guy, and if Kenny needed a few extra seconds,
Yeah.
you got a few extra seconds. If the other team was driving down the field, you never saw a clock go so fast. It was so funny how we controlled the clock.
It was a real home field advantage.
Oh my God, it was crazy. It was a swamp, and we had the clock on our side, and when the football's on our side, probably the referees too. So it was just fun to be a part of that team.
Now, talk about the crowds. My father said people just don't realize just how loud the crowds were back then. And he said the only time he really heard the modern football is the Raiders were in the championship game before they got demolished by Tampa Bay in the Super Bowl. He said against the Titans, that was a loud crowd. But explain just how crazy the fans were in that era when you played.
Well, it was just the way it was. It was Oakland. And Oakland, maybe it was because, there wasn't all the ritzy-ditzy San Francisco stuff. It was just down-the-earth, wild football fans. And one thing, and then I was going to say one thing led to the next. We're starting in the parking lot with the real black hole. It was in the parking lot.
Yeah.
And these guys they would take this one parking lot and they would pull their cars in, and it would be a big circle in the middle, but you couldn't get out if you were in. And so after the game, Bobby Moore and we used to go over there with the black hole. We walk your way in there, and then you got anything you needed to make you feel happy. But it was crazy. But it went from the parking lot, then it went into the end zone, then it spread to everywhere. And even Del Courtney with the band.
I love the band.
Yeah, the band kept it going. We had the band on our side. It was really quite crazy, and a story that you don't know, but this is for you, Florence. Danny Kilakina. Did you ever hear of Danny Kilakina?
Yes, yes.
From
It sounds
Hawaii,
very
right?
familiar. Yes.
And he was, I don't always call him Elvis Presley, but in Hawaii, he was big, right? Don Ho and him were the two big guys. So I got a friend and he owned San Leandro Dotson named Gordon Payo, great guy. He goes, Phil, you want to go over to Hawaii and play in a golf tournament with me? I said, sure. So we go. It was Danny Kilakina's tournament. So we're sitting around drinking Mai Tais with Danny and his group. And he told me, he says, Phil, I have a wish. And I said, what is your wish? He says, I want to sing the national anthem in Hawaii, his tongue, in Oakland.
Wow.
And he goes, could you make that happen? I said, done.
Wow.
I go back, I grab Al Locasell, who was number 2 guy,
Sure.
and I said, Al, this is huge. And he said, Phil, what a great idea. We'll get Del to play the music. We'll have Danny sing. It'll be unbelievable. So he got more excited than me. But he says, I got one problem. I go, what? I got to run it by the man. So that was Al Davis, right? Next day, done. Get a hold of Danny. You got to have him call me. We got to set up. We got to get him a room. We got to get him everything. So Danny came over and sang, and it was one of the most beautiful home. You talk about home field advantage. Like the visiting team was probably, what's with these people? They even care about a game, But that's what we cared about. We were like that. We loved, we loved all the craziness that went along with being a Raider. And, when you get a black hole started, you get a John Madden getting 15-yard penalties. No coaches got 15-yard penalties, but John did, and it was just the era. Like you said, your dad was there, and it was the era, and you had to be loud. That's how you started this. It was so loud in that stadium because that's the way it was. You're a Raider fan, you're going to be loud, and you're going to be wild.
It was fun because my dad said you'd have a banker over here, you'd have a doctor here, you'd have a garbage man here, and they're just all going insane. And it's so freaking loud. And I remember Don Shula one time said, I'm sick and tired of people calling hell in Miami during the summer. It's in Oakland during the fall. That's where it is. And then Hank Stram with the famous thing, he got mad on NFL Films. He goes, "It's wrong that the governor lets out all the prisoners in San Quentin every Sunday. It's ridiculous." So oh man, it was just such a crazy place. And talk about, now I've got probably 100 questions, but I'm going to talk about these, and I've never heard you answer these in depth. One, did that incident, and God rest his soul, Russ Francis, I'm into aviation, and that was just a tragedy that happened to him. Did that incident with you and your wife at that time and him and his wife happen?
Yes.
It did.
Yes,
Wow.
it happened. That was a crazy one, but Russ wasn't married yet, so he was in the cockpit. He had the plane. I mean, I don't know anything about airplanes. You could call it, but it was small, and it was he was flying it. He sat here, I sat next to him, and Patty sat right behind the both of us. And we planned this. We were over there, I think it was for the super teams. I think when we won the Super Bowl, we had it was the Vikings, the Raiders, and the Reds and the Yankees. And we went over there, and Russ showed up, because him and I got to be very good friends. That's the beauty of the Pro Bowl. And Florence, see if you can understand this. I got to love Russ Francis, but you can't play football and love somebody.
Yeah.
It was very difficult for me to play my game after I got friendly with these guys. But Russ and I, we went ahead and beat each other up for a bunch of years. So we did it the right way. So anyway, he comes over and he goes, "Phil, how about tomorrow I take you and Patty, we'll go over to Maui and we'll look at the whales." And because they were all at that time of year, right? So we flew over to Maui, we're flying around, and then, the whales are right down below us, and he reaches over, and everything is wonderful to this point. And the doors had a knob on it. Yeah. And he took the knob and slid it, and the door went flying open. And then he goes like this. And I got the seatbelt on and got the thing that was like a double. Well, he knew that, but I didn't know that. So we're now like this, and I'm looking straight down at the whales, at the water, and he goes, "Did you hold me?" and I'm looking up, I'm looking at him. He goes, "Did you hold me?" And he started looking straight up in his eyes. And I said, "Yes." And he went, "I know you did. I know you had to, you had to admit it." But that was another Raiderism, because there was a guy, Tony. I'll think of his last name.
Tony Klein?
No, he was a referee.
Oh.
He reffed forever. Tony Viteri. Tony Viteri, Italian. And him and I mean, we got pretty much the same group all the time. The Raiders always had the big games, so we got the best refs. So Tony is right on each side, judge, right there. And he came up to us, me and Russ, right before the first game. He goes, "Guys, I don't want any shot of you. You keep it calm, play hard. I will not put up with it. Flag. I'm grabbing him. He's shoving me. We got about 4 flags each, plus George Atkinson hit Russ with an elbow in the nose, and he
broke his nose.
Yeah, the blood was everywhere. And we thought we got rid of him for the day, but we didn't. He came back in with this stuff shoved up his nose, and he looked ugly, but we knew we were in for a battle. So, but anyway, right around third quarter, and I think it was Tony threw another one on me, because here, with their favorite play to get a first down was Francis would bam with all his might right into me, knock me back, and turn around, and here's the ball. I mean, him and Grogan
Yeah.
timed up. Unbelievable. So anyway, I had to, as soon as he went like that, I grab him, and he couldn't get away. But he was actually doing a penalty too. You're not allowed to shove the guy and catch the ball. So that's why he warned us 3 or 4 times each. And then, it was obvious I couldn't let him shove me, because he got a first down. So I had to grab him. He had to shove me because he wanted that distance. And he called us both over like to start of the fourth quarter and says, "You're on your own, boys." And that was the biggest thing, because here it comes. They're moving the ball down the field, and it was 3rd and something, and Russ gave me the old shove. I grabbed him. Now we're hooked together. The ball comes and bounces off him. I mean, he could have had it if he could turn around, but he couldn't. So anyway, I had him, and the ball bounces down. We get the ball, we go down the field, and we win the game. That was to go on to the Steelers, to go on to the Vikings. We had to win that game. So anyway, that's what Francis was yelling in the airplane. Did I hold him?
Very interesting.
Yeah, I held him. But yeah, you were shoving me every play too, So
he tells one of the great Raiders stories. He said the Raiders were one of the last teams to drink beer, and he walked into the toilet. He was going to razz you guys because I think it was the game where they killed you in New England, and he saw Ten Hendricks sitting next to the toilet, and he picks up $100 out of his pocket, and he throws it in the toilet, and he goes, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "I dropped a 5 in there, and I sure in the heck ain't going in there for just $5." He goes, "That was the Raider mentality. How do you play against that?" But
it was hard. And Ted Hendricks, what a great guy! What a great player!
Amazing player. Now another thing is you've talked in depth about the Immaculate Reception. I wanted your more in depth about the Rob Lytle fumble, because to me, that by far is one of the most biggest travesties in the history of the NFL. Here, Jack Tatum hits Rob Lytle, knocks him out. He's out cold. He needs 3 guys to take him off the field. He's so out of it. They leave. Everyone's leaving the field. The Broncos are leaving the field. The fans are upset. The only one guy, and I forget his name, he passed away, but the ref, I can't remember his name, but he said is, "I didn't see a fumble, so the fumble didn't happen." And John Madden says, "This is why I hate referees. You do not call things you don't see. If you didn't see it, that doesn't mean it didn't happen. It means you didn't see it." And that's where he got so mad. How did you feel at that play? Because that was one of the most ridiculous travesties, and it could have cost the Raiders a Super Bowl.
Well, it could have, and the Broncos were definitely not ready for that level.
No.
They played great at home, great fans. They had that crazy horse that ran around the field.
You were out for the season, if I can interrupt you, and you were out for the season, and I think John Vella was hurt too. You had a lot of injuries.
We lost about 5 guys when we went to Pittsburgh the second week, and we beat the shit out of them. But we lost Vella, we lost Tatum, we lost me, we lost Otis Sistrunk, we lost another player.
And during the game, Fred Biletnikoff. Remember Fred Biletnikoff? He separated his shoulder.
Yeah, it was, and I guarantee they put that brand new AstroTurf down.
Yeah,
and it was so sticky. And football, I don't know, for your listeners out there, when you play football, you got to be able to get your feet up and you got to slide. If you can't slide, the only thing that is going to happen, you're going to lose a knee or you lose an ankle because you can't, you got to, it's a lateral game. So I am injured, but the crazy thing about it, James, you couldn't, if they put you on injured reserve during the season, you could not play again unless for the Super Bowl.
Yep.
So I'm thinking we're going to win this game.
Yep.
We're going to be. I'm going to get to play. I was working out like crazy, and I probably I don't know if they would have let me play, but the coaches, because it might have been too early. Back in those days, the surgeries weren't what they are now. But I was ready, and we got screwed. It was just that.
And it would have been the Raiders versus the Cowboys, the two by far most popular teams in the NFL. The Super Bowl would have been a huge deal. That would have been just monstrous. By far the two most popular teams. So I'll never forget that. What did you feel during that? Did you just say, this is ridiculous? I remember Al Davis says, if they gave me the apologies that they owed me, I could wallpaper my office. He was so mad. And but what did you feel? Also, the other game was the ice game in Pittsburgh.
Oof.
Where they said I think the water system broke or something happened and the field froze, and it just so happened that Mel Blount can't guard Cliff Branch, so you have issues there. But talk about those two situations real quick.
James, that's really good, man. I mean, you are a Raider fan.
Yes, he is.
And I'm getting bitter as we say. I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight, Phil.
No, that was that game. It was just another one of those games. I mean, it was a player too. And I remember Willie Brown was injured.
Yeah.
And he got injured the week before, and we had to start Neil Colsey. Not that Neil Colsey wasn't a great player or going to be a great player. He just hadn't played. Yeah. You're starting a guy against the Steelers in their home. He's going to make a mistake. And there was that one play where, I mean, he came up and he went sliding right on by Franco, who went right around the end. It was so too easy, and I don't want to blame anything on Neil. Good player. He was trying hard, but we had him. We were in the lead in the fourth quarter, and we couldn't hold them. And that was a tough game. That was nuts when it was so cold. When I was on the sideline, I come out of the locker room. I go down on one knee. And I wear the basketball, kind of like the basketball knee pads that go from here to here, And I got up, and my pad had frozen solid. And I went like this, like crack, and the pad broke in half. That's how cold it was. And, we played them a great game, but, they won, and it was Cliff didn't do anything that day. We didn't do anything. You know what? I think our defense played well enough to win, but you got to score.
Yeah.
You can't go into a playoff game and just lay an egg. And we did that. We did that the year before in Oakland when Pittsburgh came to town. We played like crap.
Were you guys overconfident that game?
That one in Oakland, I think we were. I think Pittsburgh was getting better every time we played them, and we knew that. We knew that was going to be a tough game, but we were ready. And I can't remember the score, but I think it was
33-14, I believe. I think you guys got beat pretty good. I think it was 33-14. Let me check. But you keep talking.
James knows his stuff.
The one in Pittsburgh, I thought was close. The one in Oakland,
16-10. was in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. The
And
Oakland,
then I was
stunk.
right. I'm mentally ill because I know this stuff too much, Phil. 33-14, and like I said, but people forget also in the playoffs. You guys it wasn't in the playoffs. It was a regular season game. You guys went in 74, and in the Immaculate Reception year, and you beat the Steelers 17-0, and completely dominated them in Pittsburgh. And it's the only shutout in the rivalry. So, that you guys had some good success against Pittsburgh.
Well, hey James, I'm glad you remembered that game, and I remember it, and you know what I remember? They were trying to make a start out of Gilliam,
Joe Gilliam,
the
Broadway Joe
quarterback.
Gilliam. Yep.
I mean, I remember playing back there. I said, leave this guy in here forever. It was terrible. He wasn't close to Terry Bradshaw.
Remember, the fans were mad at Bradshaw, and Bradshaw
Yeah.
was a little immature, and he didn't handle it probably how he should. But it was obvious he had that arm. Oh my gosh, just a rocket arm.
And
So-
he's like 6'4", like 230. I mean, that's a big kid
Tough
running
guy.
the ball. Especially when you're dropping back, you get tired.
Yep.
You're dropping back. The guys are faking, and then all of a sudden you get big old boys running down the field. It's I would have taken Junior Joe Gilliam any day versus Terry Bradshaw, but the coach hated him
Yeah.
for some reason. Bradshaw and the coach were.
Remember, he and Noel had issues at times where they were love-hate, and he had to love-hate with the fans too. It was kind of a weird situation. That's when he called Al Davis and he complained, and he says, you got to get me out of here. I want to come to the Raiders. And that's when Al Davis said, no, you can't come here. We're already set. But he called Art Rooney and told Art Rooney, what are you doing? He goes, you got a great quarterback. Play him. Stop playing Gilliam. And then Al Davis said, I regretted doing that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Al never had to tackle him.
Yeah.
That was work. That was work. And Bradshaw was in there. And then, what was it, like 75, I think, when I think the steroids got invented. And we went back to Pittsburgh. And I remember their tight end, Brown.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and he went from tight end to tackle. And he also went about 100 pounds more. And I said, Larry, how are you getting so big? And he wouldn't even talk about it. But that whole offensive line was exploded that year,
And their fans and some of even the old writers, they never took steroids and they all that. I said, how could they become this super offensive line? And you had Upshaw, who wasn't all that big for a guard, and some of the other ones, and obviously Art Shell was huge, but. And then you look at the Steelers, and they look like freaking titans. I mean, they're just monstrous and
And
dominating.
it all happened in 1 year, too,
Yep.
James. They just exploded. And we're like, holy mackerel.
Remember, they lost to the Dolphins, and then they realized, no, their defensive line destroyed us. We need some vitamins here. So I agree. I don't want to accuse anybody allegedly, all that stuff. I don't want to get in trouble. But yeah, it was pretty crazy.
But you're allowed to accuse the Steelers of anything.
They're
That's the way
them
it
and the
is.
Chiefs.
The Chiefs and the Steelers, they forget them.
Now the next one we're gonna have a couple more quick questions, but the thing, Phil, is what I loved about you guys, and this is the fun part, is that the rivalries you had were hateful rivalries. The Dolphins to this day literally hate you. But then they like you. They're friends with you. The Steelers, when Ken Stabler, and that's my last question about Ken, because I wrote an article about Ken and it went viral, and I brought up a lot of craziness with that, and I want to ask you if you think it's true. But the most supportive group, fan base, or players that I see online for the Raiders is the Steelers. And no team hated the Raiders more than the Steelers. And you talk about your dear friendship with, God rest his soul, Franco Harris. That's pretty amazing. Like you said, you can't love them while you're playing them.
Yeah.
But afterwards you can. But you hate them while you're playing them. You guys are serial killers. You guys are nice people, and you guys become friends. But talk a little bit, as you talk in the book, about Franco Harris.
He was a gem. When I first got to know him, I wasn't sure that he was how nice he was. And this guy can't be this nice. He's too, and I was with him, my third year was his second year, and we were in the Pro Bowl together, and he goes, Phil, could you come here? I got to tell you something. And I said, what's up, Franco? And he goes, last year, I got the Italian American Athlete of the Year award, and you got it the year before. And I said, yeah, that's right. And I said, you went to Trent? He goes, yeah, I went with my parents. But I got to tell you something. And I said, what's that, Franco? And he goes, my mother and your father speak the same dialect right outside of Naples over in Italy. Wow. I said, get out. He goes, Phil, because I was in Oakland. I didn't come back for the dinner, but he went. He said they talked Italian the whole night, and a few other people had the same dialect, and they were having such a good time. So, when anybody opens up with a story like that, I like, this is a good guy, and so then it went on and on, that year was his rookie year. That was the Immaculate Reception year. And naturally, I didn't go back for that dinner, but it somehow or another got going. And all of a sudden, somebody discovered some film, and they could see all the holding at the line of scrimmage. They could see where Tatum absolutely hits Fuqua the ball, and Franco traps the ball on the ground.
You get clipped.
So it gave us so much material over the years, and
you get clipped too. Don't forget that.
Oh, I get clipped. Yeah. And I could feel it to this day. If I would have gone down, which I could have easily, because he hit me, it just got me good. And if I would have gone down, I doubt they would have ever thrown the flag. So I tried to get my balance, which I ended up getting my balance, but Franco's too fast. So he was gone. And that was my thing. I get clipped. You trap the ball. Tatum, it doesn't hit the ball. It hits Fuqua. All those great things. And Franco and I, over the years, because I went into the shipping business after football. We all needed a job. Nobody made any money in those days. So I was in shipping, and there was a heck of a lot of big shippers in Pittsburgh. So I used to go there all the time, and Franco and I got more and more friendly, and I got friendly with his wife Dana and his son. And now, we lost. Well, then cell phones got invented. Then he decided to call me every 7 minutes after 4 on the 22nd of December. He called every year. And since he died, the last 2 years, I've called his son And I said, I'm going to keep this alive. Your father busted my butt for all these years. I'm busting your butt. So anyway, his son
And
is his
he
son's
passed away. He passed away right before the reunion, didn't he?
yeah, yeah. Matter of fact, that was I was flying out that day from we live in Palm Desert in the winter, so we were flying out that morning, going to join Franco for dinner that night. My daughter Andrea calls me, and she's crying like crazy, and I'm like, "What's the matter? What happened?" She said, "Franco died." I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it, and we had this whole thing planned. It was going to be so cool. It was, his jersey's getting retired, the 50th anniversary of the Immaculate Reception, and we had it all. And then, I went and Mike Ciani, who was wide receiver for us, and Mike also lives in Palm Desert, and he called me up and he said, "Did you hear the news?" I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Are we going to go?" I said, "Are you kidding? We got to go." And Mike and I went back, represented the Raiders at the celebration of Franco's life. Dana, his wife, turned it into a great party
Oh, good.
the night before. I got to see Andy Russell for the last time. Jack Cam was there, Joe Green. The Raiders and the Steelers became, I think, because of the wars that we had, we became much more than competitors. We were, I no doubt about it. I loved Franco. I'll never forget walking down the street with Franco, and there was a friend of mine calls me and said, "Phil, I don't know if this is going to work or not, but I forgot the bank's name, big bank in Pittsburgh. And we had a Bowling Green guy that was kind of like big time in the bank. And we were going to, this guy Vic and the VP at the bank, they got an idea that maybe we could have it was called the Immaculate Loan, named after the Immaculate. We were going to, and Franco and I were going to, do commercials and for the
Oh my
Immaculate.
gosh.
And it was a great idea, but the bank never followed up, so we never did do it. But that was a couple years before he died. But
Yeah.
that shows the friendship, And then we're leaving that meeting, and like I was just saying to you guys, every single person on the street had to say hello to Franco. It was
Yeah.
unbelievable, unbelievable that he was the king of that town.
Now, we're talking to our dear friend Phil Villapiano and his book Just Tackle Baby, and it's out August 4th. But the pre-sales are on now, so get on. It's going to be a hot seller. Also, remember, Phil's a part of the John Madden movie with Nicolas Cage, and that is going to be huge this year. So, and we've been asked to market that, so we can't wait. It's going to be a Raider fall and winter.
Oh, yeah.
And we're loving on it. Last question, Phil. Did you know Bob Padecki's situation with Ken, right?
Well, I don't know if I know the truth. I know what I heard, and I know that I think it was Padecki held him out from the Hall of Fame all those years, and they all went against him. But I don't know. All I know is that, hey, I don't put it past. I went down to Gulf Shores many times. Kenny and I drank a lot of beers down there. He's got a group of friends. The group of friends, maybe they're not the best guys in the world, but I think what I heard happened, was his friends that did it. Kenny took the rap. Kenny doesn't get in the Hall of Fame until he's dead. Bad. bad.
Is a horrible. The guy, I'm not going to say his name. I don't know if he's still alive, but one of his friends, at least what was said in the Gulf papers and different things that I did research on, his friend planted it. And if you don't know the story, Bob Podecki went unannounced, which is very unprofessional. I actually, when I did my article, I reached out to Bob twice. He wouldn't respond, so I told Bob I'm going to write what I want. I don't know if this is going to go anywhere, but I'm going to write my thing. And if you don't want to say anything, I thought he thought the article wasn't going to go anywhere, but it went viral. I mean, I was on ESPN. I was on all these places, University of Alabama radio. And it just, because the story was fascinating, what ended up happening is Bob Podecki went unannounced. Ken wasn't happy about it. Ken had a bad year. He was fighting with Al Davis over salary. He planted it. Bob went to jail. And Bob said they did all these crazy things to him, and I don't think they did, but, allegedly. But he then was escorted by one of the sheriffs and said, all I know is you need to leave today, right now, and we will escort you, because if you don't leave now, this may not end well for you. So Ken's friends were not to be messed with, but he told Dr. Z, and if you remember, Dr. Z was he was Mel Kiper. He was the first guy that was the big wig for the drafts for ESPN, and he held a lot of stroke on the East Coast in New York, and he said in an interview, I'll never forget it, and that guy made me sick. He said, Ken Stabler is the only person in my life that I ever tried to not get into the Hall of Fame. And all the East Coasters went for him, and they never voted for him until he passed away. But what a low-life situation. Now Ken did meet with Podecki a couple years before Ken passed away, and they patched it up. He said no hard feelings, and Ken said, "Yep, no problem. We have no problem, no hard feelings." And then when Ken died, to Bob Podecki's, he wrote a very nice epitaph, and how he said the two most exciting quarterbacks in the NFL were Montana and Stabler. So crazy story, though. Also, the FBI with all this stuff. Did you know that they were following Ken?
Well, I heard things. I didn't want to believe any of that stuff. There was also some gambling. If that's probably what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I wish I could show you around my room here. I got over here. Listen to this. You're gonna like this, James. And it's Kenny Stabler, and this is from Phil Villapiano. He was the all-time quarterback for every team, not just the Raiders, and that's how I remember Snake. And I got another picture of him over here with his Hall of Fame coat on. They superimposed it, which is, I don't know how they did it, but he looks like he was really there, and just. He was such a good friend of mine. I don't worry. I think
all of this stuff was because I'm kind of I'm no talent like Ken, but I'm like Ken, that I don't care what your background is. If you're cool to me, I'm cool to you.
Good.
I'm not going to judge you. And I think that's how Ken was. Ken had friends that were interesting. Maybe they weren't church people, but the thing is they were loyal to him and he was loyal to them. And and I think that's what happened. And every time they judged him by who he was hanging around with. I don't think he ever did anything wrong, other than party maybe too much sometimes. But who didn't?
I don't think. I do think it was his boys down there. I do think, there may be a reason the FBI want to take a look at him. But, hey, we love the Snake, and those 60 crazy thousand people that you were talking about earlier, they all love the Snake, and he won so many games, and coming from behind. And I used to drive me crazy when he would throw an interception to the flat. And no quarterback ever threw me and he would float him out there and it would drive me crazy. And I'd come running on the field and I'd look at the snake and he'd go, keep it close, fool. Keep it close. Keep it close. Oh my God. And then we ended up winning. So
he was amazing, and I think that I like all this stuff. Because it, to me, it breeds. Your book talks about it. There was an aura about the Raiders. I forget who the cowboy was. I think it was Roger Staubach who said when they walked on the field, it was like the giants were walking on the field. He said, we're the mighty Cowboys. And we went and played the Raiders in a practice. We were doing scrimmages and practicing. And he said the first drive, Ken Stabler threw a dart 40 yards for a touchdown. And he said, I'm glad we don't play these guys every year. He said, and this was the Cowboys era. So I think I like it. I like the dirtiness. I like all this stuff. I like the aura. To me, one of my proudest moments as a football fan is I got booed in the Denver Mall when I wore my Jack Tatum jersey. You couldn't. I was almost in tears. I was so happy.
That's great.
But that's what
great.
it is. We have so many stories. Go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, I just wanted to say we're playing the Cowboys, and there's an extra little hatred in there because the Cowboys were America's team and all that stuff, and I am really focusing on Roger Staubach, and we come out and the Cowboys are already out and they're in their lines, and we usually run across the field, run down, and then you fall off. So I'm running across the middle of the field, and I hate Roger Staubach. I mean, I hate him. I can't wait to play him. I'm going to get him. And as I'm running, he goes, "Hey, Phil. And I look over. How you doing, Phil? And I melted. Roger Staubach melted me. And I said, how can I kill this guy, Now, but Roger was such a good guy. Totally different than Kenny, but a cool guy. So we had our version of our quarterback, and they had their version, which was cool. And you know what, hey James, you think about Len Dawson. He was the Chiefs. He was the man. And it always is nice when you're playing against a quarterback that is the team, and they're all following him, and you're just trying to beat them. So that's a beautiful game when you go in there for things like that. But anyway.
I don't go a week without watching a 70s game on YouTube. It's amazing because most of the Raider games are on, and I just watched the Raiders come back with the Saints with Ken Stabler. So on Monday Night Football.
What a night!
That was a great game. And so the thing is that you guys just tackle baby. We're going to be sharing this. This is an amazing book. Amazing book.
Phil, for all the fans out there, all the Raiders fans, the NFL fans, why should they get this book? Tell them exactly why they should get this book.
Well, I would think, if you're a Raider fan, you got to enjoy the stories. It's just, it's hard writing the book. And my boy Todd Schmidt kept me focused. Finish the story, Phil. You're going off on another tangent. I would tell one story, it ended up being 10 stories in one. No, we need to, I think I gave a really good, summation of a 70s Raiders that we still got a little bit of swag to us. I just was a Raider. So if you want to know what a Raider was like, I was a Raider. And it was tough and nasty and all kinds of stuff. All good stuff is in there. So you'll
Great.
learn a little bit about the Raiders.
Great book.
Stories. And what we're going to do is we kept it clean this time. But in 2 weeks, we are going to have Phil on again.
Yes.
Again, the book will be out on August 4th. And we are going to talk the other part of the book, the more personal part of the book, with Phil growing up. Great stories. If you are an NFL fan, a football fan, or just you love characters, I'm telling you, the stories in here, the Raiders, there will never, ever be a team like that, as good and as crazy as those guys were. But we're going to talk about the Santa Rosa days. We're going to talk about some of the partying days. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. And we are also going to be talking about some of the people that should be in the Hall of Fame, including our esteemed guest here, Phil Villapiano. But there's a lot of them that I'm just heartbroken that they are not in the Hall of Fame. I'm really ticked at the new writers at the lack of historical knowledge they have to the game, because I love the game so much, and I love that era because they were so good. And they were so accommodating to the fans. It was just a real special time. But Phil's book, if you're an NFL fan, any fan of just sports in general, there are so many crazy stories. Wait till you start with his high school and college. I mean, geez, just those stories.
I can't wait for my brother Angelo. I told you about my brother Angelo,
We're
my
getting it
oldest
for
brother.
him.
He is such a Raiders fan,
We're
and
gonna
he
get this
loves
book
you,
for
Phil.
him. Yeah.
If you want to say a quick hello to Angelo,
Yeah,
I'm going to send this to him.
Say hello to Angelo for
Hello,
us, Phil.
Angelo. I love your name, Angelo. I had an Uncle Angelo lived from Springfield, Mass., and he was in charge of all the Springfield guys that would. It was on my very first game of my career was us, the Raiders versus the Patriots in Schaefer Stadium. It was brand new in those days. And Uncle Angelo organized all the Villapianos from Springfield and Jersey. And he threw the party. It was great. So hello, Angelo.
So excited.
And actually, our father was born right outside of Naples as well. My dad and his family are from Benevento. So we also had parents born in Italy, my mother and my father both.
That's cool. Yeah, we're from Campazano, which
That's
is
great.
somewhere right up in the hills. And the Villapianos built the church.
Nice. So you're a paisan.
Yeah, so we're going to be, and also with this fall and winter, we've got some things. We hope to spend some time with him, with Phil, and he's got some very important signings too that he's going to be doing. So we're going to be marketing all that. We're so excited about this winter and this fall, and I'm telling you, get this book. This is going to be the book to get. And the Madden movie is going to be the movie to watch.
We're so excited
can't wait about
Madden.
that one. Thank you to Bob Hideki.
Should I tell everybody about the Madden movie?
Let's keep that for next time.
We will.
We'll keep it.
Next
We'll
time.
Because we'll use it as a teaser because we've gone on too long because you got me too worked up, Phil. But it's all those old times bring back such amazing memories, and all of our families. And I feel bad. A lot of our families aren't here anymore, and they love the Raiders so much. But shout out to them. This is all for you, but I'm telling you, this book is the best book I've read in a very long time. If you're looking for analytics and all this other garbage, no, it's straight from the heart. And the stories are gold.
Hey, James, how did you like Al Davis in New York City when he broke my father? My agent was humbled by Al Davis. I thought that was great.
Al had that way,
He knew just what to say, just what to do. And my father melted. He melted. But it made for a great story, And the other one about Jack Ham, do you remember that one?
Oh, yeah.
Jack Ham?
Great Jack Ham. Yeah.
Oh
It was
God.
wonderful.
Crazy.
Thank you so much.
We
Phil.
thank you. We have so many stories for the next
Yes,
time,
yes.
and we're not even a third of what some of these. We don't want to give up the whole book.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
these stories are just absolute gold, and we're going to talk to Phil for a couple minutes after we leave. But we just so thank you all for the
Yes.
support. Shout out to JT the Brick for supporting us and supporting
Amy
Phil.
Trask.
Amy
Trask has
Trask,
been
my
wonderful.
yeah, and we got a couple NBA players that are interested, and we're trying to get as many people on board to this, because I'm telling you, once you get this book, you are not going to stop. I picked it up from
Thank you.
4 in the afternoon, and I didn't stop till I went to sleep. It
He
was
read
amazing.
he read the whole thing in one sitting, Phil. The whole thing.
It's my buddy. I love him. Good job, James.
You bet, Phil. And like I said, we thank you all. We're going to be sharing all this stuff, and
Yes.
Phil's going to be sharing more of his life. I promise you, we're going to have him on in 2 weeks again, and we're going to get into the nitty-gritty. This is just kind of the start, little flavor. But next, we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of the thing. We're going to be talking about Raiders camp, which hide the women and children. It's going to be fun. And then also how Phil grew up and what made him kind of who he was and who he became. Also some intricate things about players that I didn't know he was good friends with that were some of the, real tough guys in the NFL. And that's real interesting stories with that too. So this is going to be a lot of fun. So we
Yes.
thank you all. Please like, subscribe, and share. And please, anything with Phil that you see with this book or anything, give it a like and share it, because we want this to just really get some great sales. So because it
Thank
deserves, the story deserves to be told.
Yes. Thank you
Good.
all.
Phil,
so
stay
Man,
with
you
us.
make me happy. You make this is
Oh,
good.
good.
All right,
good.
Phil. Well, you guys take care. We're going to talk with Phil a couple minutes, but we love you.
Thank
you for the
you.
support. We really do appreciate it. It's humbling, and thank you for your attention.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Have a great week. All right.